Hello guys. Good afternoon, well, good evening to everyone. Can you guys hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up? Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Monse. Lovely. All right. Well, nice to see those of you who are here. We've got David. You're a regular. Nice one. Thanks for coming again, David. Hello, Alex. Hello, Monse. Hey, guys. Hello. Hello, Javi. David. Okay, great. Let me open this chat. Hi. Ernesto, fantastic. You finally arrived. Well done, man. Nice one. And Yolanda, maybe this is your first webinar with us. Thanks for coming. That's great. Who else have we got? Eric, another regular. Fantastic. Monse, hello. All right, great. Well, I hope all of you are okay. Obviously, the topic of today's webinar, well, it's a little bit different this week. This week, we've decided to do something more based around business English, and we're going to look at CVs. The title of today's webinar is the top tips for a better CV, and we're going to focus in quite specifically on something called a personal statement. And basically, that's the idea for today. We're going to talk about register, how to make sure you're writing in the correct register, you don't sound too informal, for example, this kind of thing. So, without further ado, let's begin. One moment, let's see if I can get this technology working. Here we go. Let's share this screen with you, and let's go. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that. So this is a Sim Diagonal webinar, and it's top tips for a better CV. Wonderful. So let's go. First of all, what does CV stand for? Now, stand for is a phrasal verb that we use when we want to show what certain letters represent. For example, your initials. My initials are PS. P stands for Patrick and S stands for Smith. So what does CV stand for? Could anyone tell me in the chat? What does CV stand for? Stands for something. Okay, but what does it stand for? Eric, do you know? Nice one, Monica, very good. Curriculum vitae, yeah. Wonderful, yes, Monse, exactly. So CV stands for curriculum vitae. And what's the etymology of CV? Where does it come from? Curriculum vitae? Tell me, guys. I think you can imagine. Certainly doesn't look like English, does it? Yeah, exactly, David. It comes from Latin. Yeah, so CV. Yeah, wonderful, Monse. Yeah, it comes from Latin. So obviously, this is the etymology. Literally translated, it means something like course of life. Inserted the words the and my, but the course of my life or something like this. Just a little curiosity about the phrase. So, well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at, first of all, at kind of the standard format of a CV. So, here we go. Let me stop this share and we'll try again. So, where are we? Wonderful. Let's go to this one. And let's have a look at this. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that actually. Let me try this again. Share screen. And okay, now I think you can see it, hopefully. So basically what we have here is just a template. So this is a template for a CV that I found, well, it's one of Apple's templates. This one I found through Pages. I think I'm the only person in the world still using Pages, but there you go. I do. So this is a template that I found on Pages. They have lots of nice templates just to give you a general idea of what a CV looks like. Now, to be honest, I don't want to focus today on every different aspect of a CV and how you write it and how you format it. To be perfectly honest, I'm sure most of you know as much, if not more than me, about this type of thing. That's not the function of today's webinar. Today, I want to help you specifically with the aspects related to English, about how we write, what writing style we use, etc. But I thought it'd be interesting at the beginning just to take a general look. So you'll see here, it's actually all in Latin for some reason. At least I think it's Latin. So you've got the name at the top there. You've got some contact details on the left. And at the top there, you've got the profile and then work experience, the different jobs and different positions that this person has held. You've got then the education, skills, and of course, references at the bottom. Now, the first look that we take at this CV, what's missing? Is there anything that you guys would expect to see on a CV that perhaps isn't there? Tell me in the chat. Do you think there's anything you would expect to see on a CV that you don't see? Yes, Javi, yeah, a picture, exactly, yeah, a photo or a picture, yeah. Exactly, yeah, and also some personal details, yeah, it's true. I want to focus first on the picture kind of aspect, because this is something that I've noticed, that here, it seems that everybody puts their photo on their CV. I suppose it's more or less a requirement here that people do that. Now that's fine. I'm sure most of you, if you're going to be applying for jobs, will be applying for jobs in Spain. But if you're applying for a job in the UK, Australia, USA, you know, the English-speaking world, keep in mind that we don't usually put a photo on the CV. It's not the correct thing to do. This is sort of the traditional answer, is to say, no, we don't put photos on a CV. There's a very good reason for it. In fact, there are a few reasons. The main one is actually discrimination. Obviously, if there's kind of some, well, conscious or even subconscious bias against, for example, age or race or appearance, also just, you know, more attractive people maybe get more jobs than not so attractive people. All these kind of biases, be they conscious or unconscious, can be influenced by a photo. So actually in the English-speaking world, we prefer not to put a photo on the CV. So something to keep in mind. Obviously, if you're applying for a job in Spain, you know much better than me what the culture is around that. But certainly in the UK, that's how it is. Employers don't really like to receive CVs with photos on them. Obviously, there are a couple of exceptions to that. If you're applying for a job as, I don't know, a model or an actor or something like that, of course, they're going to need to see what you look like. And in that case, absolutely fine. Put a photo on there. But if you're just applying for, you know, whatever, a job in banking, don't add a photo. Would be my general advice. Okay, what else? If you want to kind of get around this situation of not adding a photo, a nice way would maybe just be to add a link to your LinkedIn profile. That way you're kind of allowing the employer to see your photo without saying, look, here's my photo. So maybe you could just include a link, the URL of your LinkedIn profile, for example. And just pay attention to my pronunciation, guys. LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, 2 syllables, LinkedIn. So just add a little link to your LinkedIn profile. Okay, wonderful. So that's kind of a general idea of what a CV might look like, minus the photo, of course. And now we're going to really focus in on this first part, this profile. So let's go back for a moment to our PowerPoint, and we'll have a look at that. Here we go. Stop share. Let's share again. Great, cool. So here we go. So a personal statement, AKA personal profile. What's AKA? Does anyone know what that stands for? AKA. Also known as, fantastic, David, correct, also known as. So it's another way to say it, AKA, also known as. Well done, David, fantastic. So a personal statement, also known as a personal profile. All right. Now, Just a quick disclaimer at the beginning. If you're applying for a position at university, an academic course, most of what I'm saying won't necessarily fit with that type of personal profile. This is a personal profile if you're looking for a job, that kind of thing. Okay, so basically there are three things that a personal statement should do. There are three things that it should explain, three ideas it should transmit to the person who is potentially going to employ you. The first one's really obvious, and it's who you are. Not in terms of your hobbies, your personality, your interests, no. Who you are professionally. Okay, so that's the first thing we should do. That could include what you've studied, your work experience, what you do, what your job is, what your profession is, who you are. The second is how your profile, so your experience, your skills, your qualifications, etc., how those things match the position. So if you're a good fit for the company or not, you know, if the skills you have are the skills that they're looking for, the experience and the qualifications you have are the same ones that the company is looking for. And the third and final thing that we should do in a personal statement is state what our career objectives are. Now, objectives are our aims, our goals, our targets for the future, and what we want to achieve. And a personal statement should also give some information on where you're going in the future. All right, so how long? How long should a personal statement be? It's a difficult question. There's no perfect answer. My advice would be to aim for around 100 words. So really not too long. I would say don't write less than 50. That would be too short. And certainly don't write more than 200. More than 200, you're not being concise enough. If you're writing more than 200 words, there's unnecessary information in there for sure. So around about 100 words is a good point to aim for. Something like that. And yeah, this is a theme that I will keep returning to throughout today's webinar. It's about being concise, being succinct, and expressing yourself in the fewest possible words. Okay, now, should it be written in the first person or the third person? Now, if any of you aren't so comfortable with this grammar terminology, the first person is obviously I, and the third person would be he or she or it. Obviously not it in this case because we're talking about a person, but he or she would be the third person, singular, of course. And the answer is both of them. Both of them work just fine. Not a problem. So we can choose. We can write this in the first person or the third person. If we use the third person, we have to be careful and we have to follow some rules, but it can be done. And those are the rules that we're going to look at now, actually. Okay, great. So let's continue. I'm going to stop sharing this with you now, and we're going to try something a little bit different. So, just a moment, guys. I'm going to copy and paste a couple of things, and we're going to take a look together. So, let's copy that. Okay, great. Now, hopefully you guys can see the whiteboard now. And here we go. So I've copy and pasted here onto the whiteboard for you. The first part, and it's just the first part of a personal statement. So take a moment to read it. Now remember, a personal statement has the three parts, yeah? Who am I? Yeah, the second, how do I fit with the position that I'm applying for? And what was the third one? And the third one was my goals, where I want to go in the future. Fantastic. So those are the three parts. This is just the first. So first of all, guys, I would like you to tell me what you like about it as a personal statement. Is there anything that you think is good about this? Now, I'll tell you now, it's not perfect. In fact, we're going to improve it. But is there anything that's good about this? Is there anything you like about it? Tell me in the chat if there is. Nothing. Okay, good, David. Yeah, it tells a lot of information you put, David. Yeah, I'd probably go for it gives. It gives a lot of information. And Monica, yeah, it's short. Yeah, it's short. Excellent. So it's quite concise. I mean, there's kind of no unnecessary words in there. Every word has a function. It gives the information. So listen, it's concise, it's short, it's not bad, but it could be a lot better. So this question could be easier. What don't you like about it? Is there anything that you think kind of looks wrong or shouldn't be there? Okay, so David, you put the separate sentences. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So it's quite sort of staccato, isn't it? It's like, boom, one sentence, boom, another sentence. There's no linkers to kind of connect the phrases together. There's a lot of I, using the subject every time. Yeah, good. Yeah, I agree completely, David. Yeah. Is there anything else? I can see something kind of related to the register, something I don't like to see in formal English. Because of course we're using a formal register here. Register being the level of formality in speech or in writing. Aha, good, good. Okay, great. Really good, guys. Excellent. We've got it all here. So Javi, letters instead of numbers. Exactly. Yeah, we shouldn't be writing 10 with numbers. We should be writing T-E-N and spelling the word 10. Absolutely. Great. Monica, 100% correct, which is related to what Monse's put there, contractions. Yeah, I don't want to see I'm, I want to see I am, because we're writing in a more formal register. So it already starts to look better if we say I am an experienced English teacher. I have worked in the teaching industry for over TEN, 10 years, etc., etc. Anything else? Well, I'll give this one to you because we're kind of against the clock here. It's repetition. How many times do you see the word teacher or teaching or something like that? It's quite repetitive, isn't it? And that's something we want to avoid in writing generally. In fact, this is not specific to CVs, but for good quality writing, be it creative writing, more formal writing, I don't like to see so much repetition. So we're going to upgrade it now, actually. We're going to look at different things we can do to avoid repetition, but that's definitely something to keep in mind, avoid repetition. Great. So let's see if I can do this. What we're going to do first of all is we're going to put this into the third person. Now you remember that we spoke about the option of writing in the first person or writing in the third person. So actually the first thing we're going to do is put it into the third person. So let's try that now. Here we go. All right. Let's see if I can just change this formatting. I'll try to make it the same. Oh, here we go, wonderful. So now, of course, all I've done is I've changed, well, I've taken away the contraction, actually. That wasn't necessarily intentional, but I took away the contraction and I've just changed the pronoun. So instead of I am, we've got he is. Obviously, the verb conjugations are different. Instead of I have, we've got he has. So he is an experienced English teacher. By the way, this isn't exactly my personal statement, yeah? This is just a generic example of an English teacher. These are not my personal details. So, yeah, I don't know what you think about this, guys, but I think it kind of sounds strange and it looks strange to write about yourself in the third person in this way. To me, it's a little bit ugly. It doesn't read well. It doesn't look particularly professional. So as I said at the beginning, we can use the third person, but we have to change a few things to make it work. because I don't like these pronouns, this he is, it kind of sounds weird. So what we really want to do is we want to find ways to omit, to leave out, yeah, the pronouns. We want to find a way to avoid saying he or she if you're a woman writing this. And there are kind of, yeah, person is one example, yeah. You know, a dedicated and motivated person would be one thing instead of he is. But let's have a look at another way, actually, that we can do this. One moment, please. I'm going to copy and paste again. Great, here we go. So let's try this one. And let's look at how I've done this here. Let's go for something like this. So going back to the original phrase, you can see he is an experienced teacher. Actually, the easiest way to avoid this, if we're writing in this kind of in this kind of formal style, is just to leave it out completely. Omit he is. Just begin like this: an experienced English teacher. And now look what I've done here. I've put who has, and by using a relative pronoun, who, I've actually avoided the need to use the subject pronoun. So now this is already starting to sound a bit more natural. An experienced English teacher who has worked in the industry for over 10 years. And I've done it again, look. This time I've used a conjunction and I've actually ellipsed the subject here, he. It's not necessary. In fact, it's not even possible in this case. Whoops, one moment. There we go, I think we're back. So yeah, I've managed to avoid using he for over 10 years and has, instead of and he has, just and has a BA degree in English language teaching. And I hope we can all agree that the second one in the third person, this one, sounds much more natural than the first one and much more professional. Yeah, to me, this one doesn't sound weird at all. It actually sounds quite nice. An experienced English teacher who has worked in the industry for over 10 years and has a BA degree in English language teaching. And now we're moving towards something a bit more professional. All right, great. So this was an example in the third person. For the rest of today's webinar, I'm not going to use the third person. I think I've given you a nice example of the third person, and from now on, we're going to continue in the first person. I just wanted to give you an example of how this is possible and to really emphasize the importance of omitting pronouns if you do it. Personally, on my CV, it's written in the first person. That's not to say you have to do it the same, but personally, that's the way I prefer. So let's have a look at rewriting again our original piece, but this time in the first person. And let's take a look. Whoops. Okay. Let's see if I can make this a bit tidier for you all. And let me paste this. Okay. Great. So, cool. So, guys, take a moment to read this one. There's a lot of differences. And actually, I would like you to kind of, as you look at it, I would like you to keep in mind what you saw here. Yeah? Because this one's in the first person, and this one at the bottom is like the upgraded version that's also in the first person. Now, I've used, for this, this kind of upgraded introduction to my personal profile, I've used some much fancier grammar, yeah? Something a bit more impressive. I've begun here with an ing verb. I've written this long clause and then I put a comma. Now, I don't know if anyone knows what we call this type of clause. Any ideas, guys? I'll be very impressed if anyone knows the name of this type of clause that I've used to introduce my personal statement. No, not indirect. No. Okay, well, the clock's ticking, so I'm going to tell you guys. Never mind. It's called a present participle clause. A present participle is a verb that ends with ing. And one very typical use of a present participle clause is to explain the reason for something. So if you look at the second clause, I am both an experienced and qualified ESL teacher. ESL, by the way, stands for English as a Second Language. You'll see that the first clause, beginning with ing, explains the reason behind the second clause. So why am I experienced and qualified? Because I have a degree and I've got 10 years experience. Yeah? So we use this present participle clause in this way. Good news, it's the same in Spanish. You don't have to worry, you use exactly the same idea with your gerundios. Yeah? Habiendo estado muchas veces en Portugal, conozco muy bien el país, for example. Yeah? Why do I know Portugal very well? Because I've been there many times. Habiendo estado. Yeah? So you've got the same idea in the Spanish language. It's nothing kind of crazy. All right, wonderful. So let's have a look. Upgrades. So we've upgraded a couple of things. We've included a present participle clause, which makes it sound fantastic and much more professional. What other changes do you notice, guys? Any other changes? Maybe related to a bit of vocabulary, perhaps? And the order of the sentences. Excellent, David. Yes, I've kind of flipped it around, haven't I? I've put the experience, and I've misspelt it actually. It should be experienced there. Apologies. But I've actually flipped it round and I put that at the end. What about the first word of the sentence? Holding. So holding. Now, those of you who've been to some of the webinars before will have heard me talking about collocation. And to hold a degree is a kind of much more specific and much more impressive collocation than have a degree. Okay, so it's absolutely fine to say I have a degree, but it's much more impressive and more professional in a formal register to use a more appropriate collocation, to hold a degree. Okay, so I could begin with teniendo, having a degree, no problem, but holding sounds much more impressive. Holding a BA degree, BA stands for Bachelor of Arts. There's BSc as well, which is Bachelor of Science. So holding a BA degree in English language teaching, and we've got the second part of the present participle clause, having worked, habiendo trabajado, and having worked in the industry for over 10 years, I am both experienced. I am both an experienced and qualified ESL teacher. Present participle clause, upgraded collocations. Yeah? What was the other problem we had? The other problem we had was repetition. We had teacher, teaching, 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 teacher. Have a look at the new sentence. Holding a degree in English language teaching, okay, we've got one, and having worked in the industry. So in this case, I just said in the industry to avoid saying the teaching industry. In context, it's already clear, so I've managed to avoid a little bit of repetition. I did repeat it once more at the end. I couldn't really think of a way to avoid it. You know, that you'll always have a bit of repetition in your writing if you're talking about a specific theme, but with 3 is probably too many times, so I've tried to at least keep it as a minimum. You know, I was thinking maybe to say language instructor instead of teacher, but that's kind of a different thing, so I had to go with teacher in the end. And there we go. So this would be my preference if you're writing in the third person, and this would be my preference writing in the first person. And that's part one of the personal statement that explains who I am. The second part is going to explain if I'm a good fit for the company, if I meet the right requirements. So listen, if anyone wants to kind of take a screenshot of this or the low-tech version with the mobile phone, do so now because I'm about to delete it all. So I'll give you a moment to do that. And let's take a look. So we're going to move on to the second part. And by the way, you'll notice it was sort of about 25 words, which is perfect, I think, for the first part. So let's go. Copy. Here we go. So I'm going to erase this now. Sorry, it's too late. You've missed your chance if you didn't get a screenshot. Here we go. So this is the second part. So this explains how I fit with the company, yeah? If I meet the requirements for this role, this position. So I've got this one. And again, this needs some work. It's not perfect. Because I have worked at a lot of schools using many different methodologies, I am a confident and wise teacher who can adapt to different methodologies, different age groups, and different students. So we've got a few problems here again, haven't we? Mostly the same problems we spoke about before. A lot of repetition. I can see the word different 3 times. I see the word methodologies twice. I don't know if you can see any other repetition. I think that's about all. What else? I can see a contraction, which I don't like. I also see because at the beginning of a sentence, which I prefer to avoid in formal writing. Any ideas, guys? What could I use instead of because at the beginning of a phrase? Since, excellent answer. Yeah, I could use since. I could also use as, would be another option. They'd be great, yeah. But certainly in formal writing, I don't really like to begin a sentence with because. In speaking, fine, go for it. No, by wouldn't really work in this case. By working, yeah, you could say by working in different schools, I have gained a lot of knowledge, something like this. Yeah, you'd have to rephrase it a little bit, Javi, but yeah, it's possible. Cool. So let's have a look at my upgrade. Let's see what I came up with. Here we go. So here's my upgraded phrase. Here we go. So take a moment to read that. Okay. So 30 words compared with 31 words. So we're more or less okay here. Remember, we're aiming for about 100 in total. So we've got, I think was it 25 from the first one, about 30 from this. We're doing okay in terms of number of words. So some important changes again, guys. You'll notice in the first one, the word wise. That's really not appropriate for a CV. I can't imagine what job you would apply for using the word wise. A judge, I can't even imagine, to be honest. So wise isn't really appropriate. I think these ones are really nice adjectives, which we've upgraded: versatile, confident, and competent. You'll see I've used the word professional to avoid repeating the word teacher. We already had a couple of uses of the word teacher in the previous paragraph. So I've just used the word professional to avoid a bit more repetition. And you'll see here, who is absolutely correct. That's the relative pronoun and the verb to be, no problem. But it's not necessary. We can actually omit it for this clause. So the range of methodologies and age groups with which I have worked have made me, sort of, me han convertido en, have made me a versatile, confident, and competent professional, capable of adapting. Yeah, so we don't need the who is. We can omit it, and when we can omit, we do omit, because we want to keep it short, concise, succinct. That's our writing style when we're writing a CV. Yeah, formal and succinct. So let's lose it. Who is? We don't need it. Let's get rid of it. Capable of adapting to the needs of individual learners. And now I think it sounds much better. Yeah. You'll notice the phrase, the range of methodologies. Sounds so much better. All right, so this was the second part. Let's see how we're doing for time. Let's try one more. Again, take a screenshot now if you want to, because it's about to disappear. And let's go for the next one. Here we go. And there we are. So this is the third and final paragraph, which, well, in fact, we're going to put it all together in one paragraph in the end, but the third paragraph for today. And again, it needs some work. This one explains where I'm going in the future, what my goal is. Yeah. At the moment, I'm looking for a job as an ESL teacher for adults because I want to get more experience of teaching and improve the quality of my classes even more. Tell me, guys, what's problems? Can you see any problems? Anything you don't like? Tell me in the chat. What don't you like about this final paragraph? What don't you like? There's definitely a few things to work on here. Many of them related to register. Any verbs you don't like? Any expressions you don't like? Excellent, Javi. Yeah, excellent. I think that's exactly the change that I made. So not currently, sorry, not at the moment, but currently. Yeah, sounds so much better. I think that's exactly the change I made. We're going to look at it in a moment. Good. So at the moment, now it's informal. It's an informal phrase. We don't want it. Contraction, I'm. We don't like that. What about thinking about collocations? We did a webinar, didn't we, on these delexicalized verbs. I remember that's your favorite word, Javi, delexicalized. Lovely to pronounce. Can you see a can you see a delexicalized verb? I can see one. Okay, the delexicalized verb I can see is get. Yeah. So let's think of a better collocation. Yeah, we've got to upgrade our collocations. Not have a degree, hold a degree. Not get more experience, gain more experience. Yeah, gain. It's going to sound so much better. Okay, good. So let's take a look at our upgraded phrase. We've got one more to look at. So let's copy that. Wonderful. Oops, hello. Here we go. So here's the upgraded phrase, and let's see what's changed. So Javi, you were perfect, yeah? Instead of at the moment, we've inserted the adverb currently just after the verb to be. What else has changed? I've changed looking for to searching for. It's more formal vocabulary. So looking for is a bit colloquial. Searching for sounds much more professional. I've changed job for work. Both of those are probably fine, to be honest. I've added a phrase, moving forwards, which means in the future, moving forwards. Now, you remember we studied linkers. We've used this one as an adverb, so we're going to put a comma after it, moving forwards. My goal is to gain, so not to get, but to gain additional classroom experience. I use the word additional because I want to express the idea that I already have experience, to gain additional classroom experience. And then another nice linking phrase, with the aim of, and then ing verbs, yeah, with the aim of is a beautiful linker, with the aim of further improving. Now further has the same idea as even more. And it also has the same idea as additional. But I chose to use further because I didn't want to repeat the word additional, and I thought even more was a bit too informal. So with the aim of further improving even more upon the quality of my lessons. Okay, and now I think I've got a really nice kind of strong personal statement for my CV. So let me show you the whole thing together. And again, if you want, feel free to take a screenshot. So here we go. We'll text that, and this is the whole thing together. One moment. Let me get rid of these ones, and then I can show you. Perfect. Here we go. So this is the whole thing together. Holding a BA degree in English language teaching and having worked in the industry for over 10 years, I am both an experienced and qualified ESL teacher. The range of methodologies and age groups with which I have worked have made me a versatile, confident and competent professional capable of adapting to the needs of individual learners. I hope. I am currently searching for work as an ESL teacher for adults. Moving forwards, my goal is to gain additional classroom experience with the aim of further improving upon the quality of my lessons. Total 91 words, which is about right. We were aiming for about 100. I was reading some statistics about CVs, and apparently, I can't kind of swear to the veracity of this statement, but apparently 6 seconds is the average time that someone in human resources spends looking at your CV. 6 seconds. So you can see how important this personal statement is. It's the first thing they read at the top of your CV. It's got to be strong, it's got to be good, it's got to be well written, it's got to be succinct and give as much information in as few words as possible. And you've got to keep that in mind always when you're writing this kind of English. Thinking about which words you can omit, which words are unnecessary, yeah? And making sure it's clear, it's easy to read. Not these kind of long sentences where you have to read them 3 times to figure out how the clauses fit together. No, concise and clear, yeah? That's how it's got to be. All right, wonderful. So, bear with me 1 second. We've just got a couple of things to look at before we finish today's webinar. So let's go back. Let's go back to this one. Here we go. So, wonderful. So this was our personal statement. We explained the 3 paragraphs, etc., etc. So what have we learned today? Just a quick sort of summary of the different ideas that we've focused on today. So personal statements can be written in the 3rd or 1st person. We can choose. Yeah, we did a little work with the 3rd person. We did a bit more on the 1st. It's a stylistic choice. I think the 3rd person was kind of more common in the past. 1st person is becoming more common now, but both are totally valid. You can choose. When written in the 3rd person, we need to get rid of these pronouns. We don't want to be saying he and she. Yeah, we need to omit those pronouns. That's really important. This is called ellipsis. Ellipsis is the name. This is when we omit words that aren't necessary for meaning. The register should be formal. Okay, so we should avoid contractions. That's a really key point. And that's true for everything. Everything you write in formal register, not just CVs. If you're writing in a formal register, avoid contractions. If you're speaking, use contractions. Even formal speaking, no problem, use contractions, but not in formal writing. We should always look to upgrade our collocations. So if you find yourself using one of these delexicalized verbs like take and get and have, just think, hang on, is there a better way of saying this? Is there a more appropriate collocation? In the webinars previously, we've looked at freecollocation.com. If you're new to these webinars and you haven't visited this website before, take a look. You just enter the word that you want to find the collocation with. For example, experience. You put that word in, you press enter, and it'll give you all the verbs: to gain experience, to have experience, etc., etc. What else? We should use a wide range of vocabulary in order to avoid repetition. So once you've written it, check it, read it, check for repeated words. Look at it. Oh, okay, I used this word 3 times. I need to find a synonym. Yeah. If you're not sure about synonyms, Google. Google is your friend. Just Google it. Synonyms for experience. Synonyms for teacher. Yeah. You'll find a million synonyms. Wow. Maybe not a million. All right. So continued. A couple more points. Present and past. We only spoke today about present, but present and past participle clauses work nicely in a formal register. And importantly, they let you express why, to express a reason, succinctly. Now, if you're not familiar with the word succinctly, I think it comes from Latin, but it means concisely. It means in the fewest possible words, succinctly. No kind of unnecessary words in there. Good. We should look to omit relative pronouns where possible. Okay, so a teacher capable of delivering classes, not a teacher who is capable of delivering classes, yeah? We can do this with past participle clauses, with present participle clauses. We can do it with adjectives like capable. What else? We should avoid colloquial phrases such as at the moment. So you got that one, Javi, that was perfect. We need to avoid those kind of phrases and change for a more formal register. Something like currently works perfectly in this case. And we should aim to write about 100 words. That's not strict, guys. Like I say, don't write more than 200. That would be, personally, I think that's way too long if you're writing 200 words. Now, maybe some people will disagree with me. As we've already mentioned, there are some cultural differences between CVs in the UK and CVs in Spain. We've already discussed this idea of putting photos. So I'm quite happy to be corrected on that by someone from here to say, actually, no, it's fine to have a long personal statement. This is my knowledge of the sort of English speaking world and how it works for us. Okay, and that's it, guys. You survived, well done. That was CV writing in English. Obviously today, we only really had time to cover personal statements. Eric was saying, what about a list? Sorry, Eric, I missed that before. I always have the chat kind of half obscured. So I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that refers to about now. What about a list of sentences? For instance, yeah, I'll need a bit of context, Eric. I'm not entirely sure what we're talking about there. But yeah, just maybe Eric's going to explain a little bit. Well, while he's doing that, I just wanted to thank all of you. Aha, here we go. Perfect. For instance, not in the personal statement would be my advice, Eric, because I think you'll already have that information further down the CV. When you're actually talking specifically about your experience in different jobs. In my opinion, for a personal statement, it's better to just avoid a kind of like bullet. I think what you're talking about is like a bullet point list, and that's not what you should do. Certainly in the English speaking world, is not what you should do in the personal statement. It should be sentences with linkers, that kind of thing, not just a list. I would save the kind of bullet point lists for further down the CV, where you're writing about specific work experience that you have. That would be my advice. Like I say, there are different ways to write CVs, and I certainly don't pretend to be the kind of guy who knows everything about CVs. I'm just more focused on the English. My pleasure, Eric. My pleasure. Always here to help as much as I can. So yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And hopefully it was useful for you guys. And Santi, you arrived late, perhaps. I didn't see you at the beginning. Nice to see you, Santi. All right, guys, so thanks for coming. And I hope to see you next week. I still haven't decided exactly on the topic, but I'll let you know as soon as I do. So cheers, everybody. Thanks very much for coming. My pleasure, Javi. Ernesto, see you in a moment. Thanks, Monica. My pleasure. All right, guys, take it easy. See you soon. Bye-bye.